This is Infection, the survival podcast, recorded live on Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019, episode 210. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Infection, the survival podcast. Infection is your source for the latest information on survival video games. We bring you the latest news, reviews, updates, and more each and every week. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. And of course, visit our website, infectionpodcast.com. Joining me with a full, pristine-sounding voice from the great state of Boise, Idaho, Brian, feeling much better with an eye, Aldridge. Hello, Brian. How are you?
I am doing very well. If you want to find me at Boise Computer on Twitter, of course, my blog, biteoftech.com, which I will, Nick, you'll be excited. I did post something new today.
Hold on a second. Let me pull this up.
Yes. And so I figured I better post my new thing before the show started so that Nick couldn't give me a hard time about not posting in 2 years.
Man. 2 years. September 2017 was the last post.
Yeah. So it wasn't quite 2 years, but one and something years. So yeah, so I wrote a script. I took the Atlas server tools that was out there, or the Arc server tools, and actually rewrote it so that it worked for Atlas now. So I have one of the only Atlas server management tools out there for Linux. At this point, we'll see if more come out.
Interesting.
By that, I've been working on that the last couple of days. So exciting stuff. Anyways, so if you want to find us, you can go check out our website. I know you want to go browse my website, biteoftech.com, but make sure you go to infectionpodcast.com, and we have on there links to our show notes. So everything we talk about today is going to have links, videos, everything that we talk about. It's all right there. Also, we have a link to our YouTube channel, our Twitch channel. If you're listening to this after the fact, you want to catch us live, that is on there, and all the different audio forms. So make sure you go check out our website. We have a link to our Discord group. So if you're looking to submit news, if you want to hang out for Game of the Week, you want to just hang out through the week and talk, maybe ask some people to come play some games with you, join our Discord, because that's pretty much throughout the whole week. That is where we're at.
All right. Yes, absolutely. You can check that out. And I will say, I know we talked about a little bit on last week's show, and I'm sorry if Brian's audio was a little screwy there. I didn't hear it, but the Twitch chat doesn't lie, so hopefully we'll figure that I'm monitoring a different mix now.
They would never lie to us.
No, I'm monitoring a different mix now, so hopefully if it happens again, I can hear it and deal with it. But we talked about it last week, but I want to say happy anniversary to you, Brian. We are now starting our 5th year. We started the show on the 20th of 2015, so it was January 20th, 2015 is when we did our first episode of the H1Z1 podcast, and here we are, 4 years later, embarking on our 5th year. So it's been a fun ride. We've been to Boston, we've been to Seattle. You had the plague. I got hit by a hurricane. We've been through a lot over the past 4 years, and we've never missed an episode. 4 whole years. Yep. 210.
We make it happen.
We do every week.
So, I think let's talk about Game of the Week really quick. So this coming week we're planning on doing Rocket League. So Rocket League now has some cross play options. So if you don't have Rocket League on your PC, or you prefer to play it on a console, we should be able to make a group and actually, because before, when we were doing cross play, we had to do only private matches. We could not do public matches. Supposedly they've fixed that. And so what we should be able to do is make a group and queue up for public matches. So if you want to play in your console, which I know Rocket League is one of those where I think it's just as good on PC as it is on console, because the primary way that you do that is with a controller. So if you're going to try it with keyboard and mouse, good luck. But it's one that hopefully we'll try that out. My wife loves that game. Maybe she'll be around this weekend to actually play Game of the Week with us. So we'll see.
Yes, absolutely. We'll give that a try coming up Friday night. I will not be here, most likely. So I won't be here. But nevertheless, we're going to be having it, and it'll be Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, in our Discord. The links, all that information is on our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. You can check it out, and it's not on your end, Brian. Don't worry, it's on mine. And we'll be good to go with that.
Okay.
Let's see. Last week we played ROE, Ring of Elysium, and I want to. We've played it in the past, and it's always been a fine game. And for whatever reason, when we played on this Friday night, it's been a while since we've played. We just did not have a good experience, and I think we tried. I think we put in the old college try for ROE on Friday, and it wasn't happening. We weren't having any luck. We were just getting killed out of what could only be explained as people that were using some type of a cheat in game. People were hitting us in position. We were getting sought out in places where we weren't seen. So how is it that you walk into a building with your gun aimed when you haven't seen me and know what corner and where exactly we are? And we've talked about a couple weeks in a row now that a couple of big ROE streamers have started backing off ROE and said, hey, I'm done playing this game till they can deal with their cheating issue, and that we didn't have a good experience. I mean, did you think we had a good experience?
Well, I think there was two things that were feeding into it. First of all, this new map is not as optimized as the other map. I felt like there was more lag and there was just issues. I think that they've thrown a lot of stuff. I mean, the map looks good. It's a good map, but I think it's just not optimized like the other one is. There's something or things that are causing when you're running around just to have more of a delay and stutter is what I kind of noticed in the map. And then also, as you said, I was in the corner in one building. I had a guy, like they came up to the building knowing exactly what corner of the building I was in, aiming directly at me. They walk around the corner, 2 shots. Like one guy ran up to the window because he knew exactly where I was. He was trying to get an angle. He couldn't get an angle from that window, and the other guy wrapped around and got me. So it's like, definitely I can understand like Manpon's being incredibly frustrated. He streams and plays it all the time. I would get so annoyed having that. It reminds me of the old H1Z1 days a lot. I mean, H1Z1 had the exact same problems of, it was very obvious. It got to a point where there's so many hackers that it was very obvious, and it was just happening on a regular basis. And I think that that's kind of what ROE has turned into.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure I don't really know what their final solution is going to be with it. I do think maybe the new map is an issue. The map is very big, and it's a nice map. I mean, there's lots of things to do around the map. It didn't feel like we were able to get ourselves into. We just really couldn't get anything going on, and even after us as a group stopped playing, I played either 3 or 4 solos, and I just couldn't make it happen. I don't know. Maybe it's just an off night. I mean, that happens from time to time and stuff. Maybe it was just a bad night. Judd in the chat is saying he had a great experience playing it over the weekend. So maybe we just had an off experience, or just frankly just a couple bad games, and just crappy luck with spawns, or crappy luck with other players in the lobby. But overall, I still think ROE is a good game, but I overall was not impressed with our experience on Friday night. It will not make me go back and play like right now. Like I have no itch to go play right now.
Now, one thing that we were going to cover a little bit later in the news, but I'll just mention it. They did put out a notice saying message on client crash issue since January 19th update. So there's some people that are getting crashes and things like that. So it could be that we are experiencing some of the issues that happened on the 19th of the update, because isn't that the night we were playing? I think. No, that was Saturday. So he said he played over the weekend, perhaps because they did a patch on Saturday. So it could be that Chris was playing on the new patch, and they fixed some of the lag issues, because we played the day before this patch.
Yeah. I do think, I mean, like I'll just give you an example. This wasn't an issue with hackers or anything else, but like the first game we played in, I was unable to find a gun.
Yeah.
I went through like 4 or 5 houses and I had a pistol, and you guys had guns.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find a gun. I went through 4 or 5 houses before I found a gun, and I finally went into a house and found a gun, and there happened to be a whole other team in there that was also going through that house, and they killed me. So I'm not saying that every time we died, it was the experience of dealing with cheaters and hackers. I don't think that's the case at all. We just did not have good experiences playing Friday night. So we'll give it a try again at some point. I was tempted to play a little bit over the weekend. I just didn't end up doing it. But
I mean, it's worth trying. You know, I mean, you could see if that patch made some changes, at least to the performance end. That would be interesting to see how much of a difference that made. Because that, for me, that's a big frustration when you're playing and you just feel like it's not smooth. Like you're getting kind of a stutter or just a delayed response on the client. And that's kind of how I felt.
And it's a little odd. Judd in the chat is talking about, you know, they don't do anything that he can see to stop a hardware ID spoofing, which hardware ID is your computer's got a unique ID based on the components that are in it. If you see
your hard drive and your CPU memory, it takes pretty much all the serial numbers and things like that and makes an ID.
So for example, if you swap out, if your CPU dies and you have to get a new one, you put it in, Windows will be like, hey, what's the deal here? You know, you've got a new CPU or new hard, whatever it is that you're replacing. And that's an effective way to ban people from the games, because IP address banning is only good if people can't change their IP address. But hardware ID is a pretty surefire way, but you can spoof that like anything else in gaming. That's why PC gaming is just so much more. It's difficult for the developers. It's more difficult for the players because they've got to deal with that set of cheats or hacks or whatever it may be over console. It's frankly something that console developers really just don't have to worry about. I mean, you know, there's some basic anti-cheat protection that need to be done on the Xbox and PlayStation, but for the most part, you're not able to edit files from the game. It's just not an option.
It's very difficult too, and they can. And I mean, if you remember the old days of people modding their Xboxes,
I had
like that,
JTAG'd Xbox.
They had to do something to a chip, and it was a lot of work. And there's always the possibility that with an update or something, they would be able to detect it.
And then ban you from Xbox Live, which is the thing that they
then ban your whole account. Yeah, and you lose those games.
Yeah.
With a PC, it's much more difficult for them to have that kind of control because they have to put in some leeway across all the different systems because, you know, from computer to computer, there may be some application you use that operates in a similar manner, maybe has an overlay or something that acts like a wall hack or something like that. I mean, it would see it as the same thing. And so it's very difficult for them to know what software is out there because it's very easy for NPC world to give you a false ban. I mean, that's why you see some people complain so much and them unban people because you might have some stupid app that shows you the people that are talking in Discord. Well, it sees that as an overlay that's, you know, going over the top of your process and they'll ban you for it. And so they have to put in a lot of those things and they're much more lenient than they would be on a console to be like, no, we know you were cheating. We detected it. You're banned, and they won't unban you. And PC, you could say, oh, you know, this happened, or I had this installed. You can come up with a list of excuses, and usually they'll unban you.
Yeah, well, yeah, or you could write a letter to the developer, and then they can read it in a video and then unban you. I mean, that's always a solution as well.
Yep.
So with that being said, the ROE map was fun. If you check it out, I'd recommend you check it out. Again, game is free. So you're not really, there's not a whole lot of investment besides your time. And let's be honest, I'm sure you've got if you're playing video games, you've probably got some free time. So check that out. We'll talk about, if we have time here before the end of the show, we'll talk about a couple of ROE changes. But yeah, that was Game of the Week. It was ROE. It was a pretty good time. And if you didn't join us, hopefully you'll join us this week.
Yep. All right. So, do you have a preference where we roll from here?
No. What do you think is? There's a couple of stories that are kind of hot topics of the week, but I'll defer to you since you kind of compiled everything here. What do you think?
Let's just kind of start with a quick one. Let's talk about Daybreak for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
One thing is, I don't know. I always feel like I'm the hipster here because I'm always like, I saw this coming.
Oh, Jesus,
and
Brian.
You always give me a hard time about this.
I do, but I do.
But do you remember when I said that a lot of the issues with H1Z1 was the dev cycle, was things like their dev cycle? Do you remember me mentioning that?
Okay, what is a dev cycle? No, I don't.
The way that they handle patching and updates, and the way that they plan doing, or how quickly they can respond to a bug and patch it. You have companies that will plan out weeks in advance. I've talked about it similarly with some other companies that just don't have the ability to do this. Oh, there's a bug today, you need to patch it today, because they plan their patches out and they're always working on like a 2-week cycle. Mm-hmm. There was another company, I don't remember which one it was, that I was talking about their dev cycle as well. They're just not suited to handle this. Now Smedley, he put out a tweet saying the 4 years of H1Z1. He says, well, it went pretty well considering the dev cycle, and that very people inside of SOE, Sony Online Entertainment, at the time thought it would do well. So, that's him. He's been much more transparent in the in the last year. It seems like he's actually talking about it, and so I think that this for him is just saying, Daybreak, now that Daybreak's kind of dissolving as far as a company, I think he's a little bit more willing to talk about it, and he pretty much has said, this, considering how messed up Daybreak was, I'm surprised that it did as well as it did, and so that's kind of a hint at, we have another piece of news here. Remember the person we ran into while at PAX?
Yes,
the community manager for Daybreak.
Very nice Flanagan. To us, by the way, Sarah Flanagan. Very, very kind to us.
Sarah Flanagan. So she gave her notice in the past week, or I don't know if she gave her notice, but she has left Daybreak, and she's actually going to work for another company. And so she left Daybreak, and she was the community manager for H1Z1 and PlanetSide Arena. And so in PlanetSide Arena, if you remember, is the one that just is. I don't remember, has it launched yet?
No, it's just
I think it's coming out here soon, like in the next month or two. But she is leaving there, and she actually, I think she sent out another tweet today saying what company she went to.
Oh, really?
Media AOC. So that's like Ashes of Creation.
Okay.
Intrepid Studio. Intrepid Studio it's a pretty big development company. Or development studio.
Cool.
And Ashes Creation is a fairly well-known game. So
good for her.
She's now the senior community manager there. And once again, another person that we know of at Daybreak is gone. So there's not very many left.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, Sarah. Good. Yeah, congratulations on your move over to a new company. No, you're right. Yep. So who's not left? The only name that I know now is Clegg. And
Clegg's not there anymore.
Yeah, but he's
no, he works for the other company.
I understand. I understand. So, but let's combine the two
Daybreak.
So I don't know anybody left at Daybreak. There's nobody left.
Only one left. Who's the guy who was the head of the new PlanetSide Arena? We know him. He's the only guy I recognize. I'm trying to remember his name off the top of my head.
Yeah. Okay, so one guy.
He's the only one that I know of from the H1Z1 days that I would actually recognize.
But even in the new parent company that owns King of the Kill PC, we know Clegg and we know Zimmer, George Zimmer, or I think that's his name. Those are the only two names that I have seen that I have any recollection about. So you're looking at, now I'm sure there are behind the scenes
there's probably a few people
that have been behind the scenes the whole time, and it's been their MO to not be public, and that's fine. But in terms of, in what Daybreak was doing, there was a lot of people that were very public. They did a couple of streams. One that I think probably the best thing they ever produced was that Ask a Dev stream or whatever, when they had everybody in a big room and they passed around a wireless microphone and
just talk to everybody.
And the questions were rolling in from the chat, and the question was, well, what are you going to do about this? Well, where's Steve at? Oh, there he is. Hey, Steve, answer this question since you're the one that deals with this thing, and it was great.
Yep.
So a lot of their people were public, and it's sad to see that they've all split apart. And without tooting our horn, we were kind of on the front side of this and catching that this was happening at this point, probably 8 or 9 months ago, when we saw a couple of people all start trickling away.
Yep.
It seemed like the end was near in regards to that. Again, people want to say, well, you're speculating, or you're trying to create drama. I'm not trying to create drama, but what does it mean when almost every known name that was associated with your company now has left and is working at other studios? What does that mean?
Yep.
I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing is, PlanetSide Arena, depending on how well it does, I mean, that's kind of one of the only possible money makers that they really have at the moment. I mean, I'm sure they're bringing in trickling money from subscriptions and things, because there is a subscription thing you can do to have premium access to some of these games.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, they don't have any product that's gonna quickly bring in money. That's gonna make okay, we need to have $1 million right in the next 3 months. But if PlanetSide Arena doesn't work, which is coming out at the end of this month, actually it went 1 week. So if that doesn't really work, and we'll know. I mean, we'll see. I think we'll see player numbers. Now they're selling it through Steam, so it should register as a Steam.
Yeah, they don't have a launcher anymore. They've got
not doing their launcher anymore. Yeah, so we should be able to see some real numbers. So it'll be interesting to see how many people are playing it. It is $20 right now. It's 50% off if you pre-order it.
Yeah,
so
I don't think that.
Does that mean, is that going to be like that forever, or is it going to go to $40 after they release? I mean, that's pretty expensive for that old of a technology game.
It'll probably stay at 20, but they're clearly trying to get rid of PlanetSide 2 and phase that out in some regard. And I just don't know if you'll have your hardcore, and there's still plenty of hardcore PS2 clans that are still all into PlanetSide, and that's the game they play. That's their main game. But I don't know if that group is large enough to, and it's clear that this is just going to be just a model flip, because this was announced this was just brought up and announced and put out almost instantly. I mean, there was no, there was no like long drawn out thing. It was just like, hey, there's a new PlanetSide coming out. It'll be out in like 2.5 months. So I can only gather that this is not a crazy in-depth project.
So, and just to kind of rehash what Daybreak still has, they have PlanetSide Arena, they have PlanetSide 2, DC Online, Lord of the Rings Online, they have EverQuest, they have Dungeons and Dragons Online, EverQuest 2, and then I guess they still kind of have under their name H1Z1, which I don't know at what point that's going to be.
PS4 version.
No, but under Steam they still claim it. They have it listed under them, so at some point that'll be taken off their list. So, but they are releasing content. At the end of last year, they released DLC for DC Universe. They released or are releasing. I don't remember when it's going to happen, but they released a DLC for EverQuest. I mean, a whole new expansion pack. So I mean, they're still releasing content, but I can't imagine that's bringing in a ton of money. They're in San Diego. I mean, that costs a lot of money just to exist there.
Carto was the lead designer over at PlanetSide Arena that we recognized. Right. His name is Tony. His in-game name is Carto.
Yep. So I don't know. I mean, that's the thing is all these games are free to play. They have that subscription model. So there's not really a way for us to know, okay, sure, there's this many people playing, but how many people are actually paying for that subscription model?
Who knows?
So, and they're not going to release those numbers. So,
yeah. All right. Well, we're not going to harp too much on Daybreak. But yeah, that's where we are right now.
That's the current news.
Yep.
All right. So, let's talk a little bit about, okay, there was some rumors going around this week, and we'll talk about what the original rumor was, and then we can kind of go into some updates that came out today regarding this.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a YouTuber called The Quartering, and he released a video talking about the possibility of Fallout 76 going free to play. And the thing is there was no real confirmation of this. It was based on things that were happening over in Australia, the EB Games, and I think also it was EB Games, I know for sure, was starting to pull copies of Fallout 76 from the shelves.
Yep.
They were taking all copies off, and people were noticing this, and they contacted him. And so, they wanted to know, is it going free to play? Are they pulling these off in anticipation of doing an announcement? And some of these things, some major news organizations, I guess major, if you want to consider them major news organizations.
Well, inside of our
publications.
Yeah, inside of our sphere, major publications
like Kotaku and games and companies like this were starting to pick up this story. And actually, the Jeremy from The Quartering, he actually got a call or an email, and then he talked to them on the phone from Bethesda today. And they said that no, they did not. They're not planning on going free to play. That this is something that they pretty much said you can talk to EB Games if you want to know why. What it looks like is that Australia has some special rules of if they can send back and get their money back from the studio, they're not stuck with the copies because of the laws in Australia.
Yeah.
So it looks like they're not selling enough. They're not making money off of them. So they just pulled all the copies and they're sending them back so they can get their money back from Bethesda, is what it really seems like is happening. That's not a good sign. I mean, for Fallout 76, perhaps this is a little bit of a hint to them that people aren't buying. I mean, they got to know that people aren't buying it. There are people who are playing it and maybe perfectly happy playing it, but a majority of the community out there is not playing Fallout 76 or buying Fallout 76 since launch. And so I think that do you think free to play would be a viable option? I mean, maybe this is a hint to them? Maybe this is even going to plant the idea in their minds of, well, maybe we can do skins. I mean, that's the kind of thing where you could do skins and you could do extra content.
No.
Is what you pay for. I mean, what's going to save Fallout 76?
There's not. They're damaged goods. People are not interested in playing the game. I own the game. I spent $30 on it, and after playing it a little while, I have no interest in playing the game. I mean, that's the reality of the situation. The game it's a damaged game. The whole thing is flawed. Not the whole thing is flawed. There are enough flaws in the game that even here's the thing with the free to play, Brian. This is my opinion on it. If they went free to play tomorrow or even today, for a couple of weeks, you'd have a whole bunch of players that are all hyped up, all wanting to play the game, and we'll do that. They'll be all into the game. They'll be spending every waking moment playing Fallout 76, Fallout 76, Fallout 76. Fine and dandy for 2 or 3 weeks, but once that time passes, and as Ross saying in the chat, it's a lemon. Once those 2 or 3 weeks pass, they're gone. They are not going to come back and play the game. So they can get. I don't see them gaining or creating a long-term large player base for Fallout 76. I could be wrong.
They stumbled enough day one. I mean, that's the danger of these type of games and with these companies. They put it. I don't think they put a huge investment into Fallout 76.
Oh, I disagree.
I mean, I don't know. Compared to, I mean, if you look at Red Dead, you look at other companies. I don't see in what they delivered that big of an investment. I mean, they may have put a team to it.
Well, they did put a team to it, and I'm sure they spent hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars producing that game. I mean, they rent out how much do you think it costs to do an event at E3 like Bethesda puts on? Those events that event itself probably cost $1 million. So, if not more. So, I mean, they
well, that's the thing is when you stutter in a game like this, like you can't get those people to reconsider. I mean, we've seen it with other games. When you have a lousy launch like this, people don't give it a second chance. There's so many games coming out. There's so many new things coming out that if you don't get it right the first day, the first week, half of the people that bought it are never going to play it again. That's just the way it works.
And I don't know what they can do. I mean, I'm not in this position to be, to be making these decisions, but it seems to me the best thing that they could do is, and I know this is going to be very, very exciting, but it's just to move on.
Yeah. Well, what do? They have to keep some servers up. I mean, that's the
I know.
issue
Well, they can keep servers up, but it's, I mean, they still want to. They're still trying to gain a user base in the game, and they're still trying to ramp up a player base. I think that ship has sailed. There is so much negative PR around Fallout 76 that I don't know if it can succeed in any stretch of the imagination. Now, if I had to guess, I would say they've probably already made their money back based on day one sales because of a name and the game Fallout. Instantly, people pre-order it. They say this is a Fallout game. This is Bethesda. This is a quality studio. And here's the thing. They didn't get an unfinished game. They didn't get a game that is unplayable. It's not unplayable. I've said that the first time after I played it. It's just different. And it's just not Fallout 3 or 4.
I don't see
it
as having the replayability. I don't see it having that long term, because that's the selling point of Fallout. All the other Fallouts is you can play them for years. I mean, there's people who play Fallout constantly, and they've been doing it for years. I just don't see that happening. I think one thing they're going to learn is, well, when you're online like this, you then have an obligation to maintain that game in a way that you didn't have to do on previous Fallouts.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some Fallouts that they haven't had to do a patch for in many years. That's not how Fallout 76 is going to work. They're going to have to keep servers up. Either they're going to have to do an embarrassing, all right, we're pulling down servers. They could do a patch where, if they gave it some sort of a local play or a group play option where you could do 4 of your friends go in and play, like, I think that would be the kind of safe downturn, of getting it to where it is a acceptable, okay, we're taking off the offline servers, but we're going to make it so where you can play with your friends over Steam. I think that would be acceptable for most people, because most people aren't playing this game for PvP and for running around and meeting new people and doing all those things. Like, you're playing with your friends and that's it.
Yeah.
So I think there is an exit strategy for them, but I think that right now they feel obligated. I mean, they've got to keep it.
But here's the thing:
obvious hacking is out and maintain it.
I don't think that there needs to be an exit strategy. It doesn't cost a whole lot in terms of Bethesda's money. It does not cost a whole lot to keep to keep a couple of people maintaining and keeping servers updated and in a running state. I don't think that's as big of a project as we think it is. But there is, I mean, we follow Fallout on Twitter. There is still and of course, the game is still new, but there is still this push for people to buy the game and to play the game, and I just don't know what they're doing. It's clear to me that people are just not interested.
Yeah. I mean, they'd almost have to release a big, hey, here's a mission or something big that's happening that's going to expand upon the world and the lore, because that's one thing they really threw in the faces of most of the people that are fans of the Fallout 76 legacy is the lore and all the stuff that happens in the world. They broke a lot of the rules of the lore, and they changed it just so that they can do an online game. And I think that made a lot of people mad. If they really wanted to bring some of those players back that are true Fallout fans, you would say, all right, we are going to expand upon the lore. We're going to stick to the lore, and we're going to, give you new insights into what happened in these years since the bomb versus when people started, where the other story started to pick up. And so I think that's what they're going to have to do. I don't see any other way, because it's not like they can dramatically fix the game enough to make it to where people are like, oh, that's great, I'm going to play again. Even if they fixed all the bugs tomorrow, I don't think it would bring back most of the players.
Sereth is saying private servers and mods are what they need, and they haven't even launched, to my knowledge, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't even think they've launched their modding platform yet for the game. I don't even think that's out yet.
No official modding platform. I mean, people, it's capable of doing it because people were implementing some of the other Fallout mods into this, and it was just showing up on the servers, but they haven't done anything officially that I've seen yet. But that would be another way to do it.
But they have got their official
people to host their own servers and do mods. I mean, that would save this so where you'd have a community of people playing it.
But they've got their whole, like, they've got some official modding platform now where creators can sell mods and the creators get a cut and the Bethesda gets a cut. So they've got a whole platform, and I do not believe that that's even out yet. So with that not out, which again I think is stupid, these games are taking. Modding succeeds outside of games. You know, making a little, essentially marketplace for it, in my opinion, isn't the best way to do it. But I mean, that's not here nor there. But that's not even out yet. So yeah, you're right. It's like Ark. Private servers are gonna be what keeps it alive. If they,
I mean, even with Atlas, I mean, that's the thing. Atlas really recently they got it to where you can do private servers now, and we'll talk a little bit about it here in a bit. You know, they allow modding now. That's what's people will only play on those public servers for so long. It's not a viable solution for long term because it's very toxic and people just don't like to exist. You can't casually play on an official server. So I think that if anything, if they could learn anything from Daybreak, or sorry, from Wildcard, that it would be look at how they did modding and how it pretty much saved Ark. I mean, imagine if Ark were only official servers.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be nearly as popular as it is today. And this, I think, is the same. We're going to see that kind of happen with Atlas. You know, the thing that's going to make it revive again is going to be the private servers and mods. And here, Fallout's going to have to learn to say either if they don't do it, then I think we're just going to see the numbers continue to dwindle to where it's just not a relevant game anymore. I mean, it's not relevant at the moment, but they're not going to become relevant in any way if they don't open it up to the community, because the community is what will save it.
Yeah, and it's called Creation Club. Thanks, Sarah, for that. That's their little platform. They've started doing that for all their games. Like the Creation Club is the way that they can kind of control modding, which again is stone cold stupid. That's the whole point of modding, is you don't control it. I mean, well, you're
going to really limit the what people come up with.
Well, yeah, you've got this Fallout New California mod that is a full voice acted game built on top of Fallout New Vegas. It's a full game built on top of Fallout New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas is essentially the engine. There's hundreds of hours or tens of hours of missions and total voice acting, a full storyline. That is what modding is. I mean, you look at a game like Grand Theft Auto. There's these crazy RP mods. Our friend Sean is building, is helping one of the developers build an add-on, a mod, so that cars can be tracked in real time for like a police mod where you can see all the cars that are out and dispatched. That's what you need. That's what keeps a game alive. And I don't know how much of. You clearly have watched the Quarterings video from today. I saw it in my sub box before the show, but didn't have a chance to watch it. I wonder how much of that, if it wasn't true, do you think they would have commented on it? If it was just totally false, like they have Brian, what they said is we have no plans of making the game free to play. If they have no plans of making the game free to play, do you think they would have contacted, what's his name over at the Quartering?
Jeremy.
Do you think they would have contacted Jeremy and talked to him and told him to make a video about this if they had no plans whatsoever? Or are they trying to kick the can down the road a little bit and go free to play?
I think at this point, I don't think, just from what they said, I don't think they are. I think that the laws of Australia have kind of been misconstrued as, okay, well, if this were happening in America, this is what this would mean. I think in Australia, they're just taking advantage of that. I do see it as a viable option in the future. I think modding and all that would be the better save than going free to play. I mean, going to free to play would have its own hassles. But I personally, I don't think that's where they're going with it, because I don't think free to play would be enough for them to justify the amount of money they would want to receive from it. I think with modding, even so, here's the downside of mod. Like if you look at how they're doing modding, the downside is, look, like you talked about that large mod that they're making that has all these people involved in creating and voice acting and all these things. The second that you bring money into that, it changes the whole dynamic. If they're not going to be able to offer them enough money to justify what all those people are doing to put into the game. If one person or a small group of people out of the whole team is making money and the rest aren't, you want to know what? People are not going to want to contribute to it anymore, because they're going to feel like it's unfair. Part of what draws them to do this is the fact that it's a group of people that are all pitching in their time and doing it for free. They're creating something for the community that's going to be free to the community. I think not allowing them, or making it to where that's not something that can be showcased because it's not part of their official paid for modding system. I think that's going to hurt them. But I don't think you can offer them money and still receive that product, that quality back. I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, if you put money in the equation, it all of a sudden will make it to where people are not going to feel like putting that much time unless they get a piece of that cut. And there's not going to be enough money to go around for that size of a project. So I think it'd be like throwing money at open source. Like, it just changes it.
Yeah.
You get a really good product from open source. But if you started throwing them a little bit of money, you're not going to get that same back.
Well, and I think you and I've even discussed this in regards of what we do to this podcast. And I think you see this with other podcasts when it transforms from being a passion project into a job. I can say, Brian, accurately and honestly, that you and I don't see this as a job. I mean, I'm not gonna speak for you, but I don't think you do. In the conversations we don't see this as a job, and we have discussed multiple times that adding money into this aspect would totally change what we do. Now, we have raised money to go out to Seattle and Boston, but believe me, we're not making any money.
But we don't receive money. We don't receive money from developers, and part of this, we've discussed this. If we were receiving money, or if the developers said we'll pay you $1,000 or plus to play our game for an hour on stream, or to talk positively about our game, that would change the whole dynamic of what this show is about.
And we wouldn't do
part of what this is about is that we can honestly, because we have no ties to any of these companies.
They all hate us. Sometimes it's crazy.
we have to pay the repercussions of it, but we honestly talk about every single game. We talk about when they fail, and we talk about when they do well. The thing that most dev studios want is for you to only talk about it when they're doing well, or even if they're not doing so well, they want you to talk about the positive stuff and ignore the other stuff, because you know what, you might get some money from them tomorrow.
What game was our boy playing this week that you said? Oh, was he playing ROE?
Mm-hmm.
Myth.
No. He was playing the Call of Duty.
Oh yeah, free weekend. They had all their streamers out playing the game this weekend.
Yep. And so, for him, he receives, let's say, $10,000 to play it for an hour,
which isn't a problem. He's an entertainer. He's a personality.
We consider ourselves kind of news people. He's not. He's a personality. He's an entertainer.
News person.
Yeah, we're newscasters. But we if we didn't give our honest opinion.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Breaking news. If we didn't give our honest opinion, then I think our podcast would be pointless. We're not entertainers in that way.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of the downside of all this is what we were kind of roundabout this whole thing, but throwing money at it, they need to just open up the community, let the community create, because the community will do much better than you giving $1,000, maybe even $5,000 to a group of people to develop something. I mean, Atlas, it's worked out all right, but you know what? They let those people create it before, and then they rewarded them after for making a really good mod on Arc.
Yeah.
They didn't throw them money beforehand or say, you're coming into this, the whole plan is you're going to make money. No, they created it as you said, a passion project, and then they happened to get some money from it in the end.
There you go.
So.
All right, so that's Fallout 76, and check out the Quarterings video on it. I thought that video was pretty good. Just something real quick here before we get into any other topics, so we can just bang out a couple of notes here. I want to give everybody a quick update on Remnants, which is a Kickstarter we talked about last week. Still trying to get up with one of the developers. They're just not contacting me back. So whatever it may be. So they're at $1,428 out of a $21,000 goal, and this is they're up less than $500 since last week, and they've got 19 days to go. So I mean, something's possible. A big tech blog picks it up, a big gaming blog picks this up in the last couple of days. They could hit their goal, but I would say they're already 10 days into their goal and have less than $1,500 raised. So it's probably going to be back to the drawing board for the folks over at Remnants, because it just, based on the amount of time and the math, it just doesn't appear that.
Well, and this is where I remember when I said at the beginning of this, I said maybe this will prove me wrong. Maybe Remnants, if they do well, it'll prove me wrong about what Kickstarter is. But I think I'm being proven right. Kickstarter's done for bringing new games to the market. It's not working. You can imagine Remnants, if that would have been 3 years ago, it would have kickstarted. 3 or 4 years ago, it would have gone through. But I haven't seen any recent games that really are making it on Kickstarter. And Joshua NZ, he does Xera. He did a Kickstarter, and he says, yeah, Kickstarter is hard these days. It's not working. People are not going to Kickstarter to seriously look at games, and any person who goes on there, from what I've seen in the last year, their Kickstarters have failed for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely the case.
I don't see it changing.
Yeah. So one can hope. One can hope. We'll see what comes up. Again, bring it up there for the next couple shows, 2 shows, and then the Kickstarter will be over by the what is it going to be, the 12th of January, the 12th of February rather. Kickstarter will be over, so we'll bring it.
Well, and if they're serious about it, I think that they'll continue developing it. I'm sure we'll see it pop up somewhere else or in some other way.
Yep.
But for the developers, I just hope they realize that this isn't a total failure of their game. They just need to reevaluate how they're approaching this.
Yep, totally. So we'll see. So, they'll figure it out, and hopefully, again, Xera failed Kickstarter, but Josh is trying to figure out a way to make it happen, and hopefully it'll be the same thing with this. All right, so that's Remnants. Where do you want to go from here?
All right, let's talk a little bit about Atlas, because there's actually some interesting things that happened over the past week.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you saw any of these videos, but they had to do a rollback. So they did a rollback that was like a 10-hour rollback on official North America PvP.
Uh-huh.
Actually, I think it went back by 5.5 hours. It's maybe when the last save was. But they had to roll it back that far, and it was because somebody had actually gotten into one of their accounts, one of their admin accounts, and it was spawning whales in everywhere, pretty much just wiping people. And for people that have never gone in and done admin on a server, maybe this is something they're going to have to look at. But when you log into Arc or Atlas, you can pull up the console, the developer console, and you see a history of all of the different commands that they've run. The downside of that is you have to type a command to be able to log in to do admin. So if someone were able to log in to their to that account, they could then look at the history of commands run, and it would show the admin password for that server. So the second they got into there, they see the master password that is for the whole server itself, for all of North America. So they were able to do this, and then they were just going crazy, spawning things in, and the result was whales, just because whales are very powerful. They will just destroy your ships. So that's something that happened. They said it was because somebody, somehow their password got figured out on on Steam. I'm sure from here on out they're going to require two-step authentication, but I would hope that they would make it to where maybe passwords don't show in the history.
This whale just like hit this boat and just flipped it right over.
Flipped it. Yeah. The whales are pretty serious business. Like they will hurt you.
Wow. That was intense.
Yeah.
Huh.
So that happened, and we'll see what they do to make changes. I mean, the answer is not, oh, let's just make it so they can't get into admin accounts. They really need to look at some serious ways of securing or making it to where if you log in, like you have to re-enter the password at some point. Plus for streamers, this really sucks for streamers because they can't accidentally, they have to be really careful about letting their console show, because if they accidentally hit the tilde key or something, it's going to show the password for whatever server if they have admin access for that server.
Really?
It's going to show it on stream.
Oh, that's that's stupid.
It's just
why do I feel like I'm looking back in time to like early H1Z1?
Yeah.
Passwords being shown in clear text.
This has been a problem on Arc since day one. Like you would be silly to stream if you have admin access to a server to stream it, because it's just so easy for you to accidentally show your whole admin. And if they can log into your server, then all they do is type that password in and they have the ability to do things on your server.
Yeah. Now, fortunately, Atlas is keeping good backups. So that's one thing we learned, right? Is that they're keeping good backups. They've got the ability to roll back.
I mean, so they rolled back probably to the point right before the person compromised the account.
Let's look at the positives of this. That means they've got a strong backup in place where they can at any point say there's a major issue, we need to roll back. That's good, because they could, if they didn't have a good backup.
Arc is the same way as well.
Yeah, if they didn't have a good backup, they would have said, "Oh shit, we got to revert a day." And 5 hours is a lot of time, but 24 hours is a whole lot more. So in that regard, that's good.
One thing that Atlas and Arc does is it will keep multiple backups. It just keeps on adding a new backup, I think up to a certain amount of storage.
Gotcha.
So a lot of times you have the ability to say, okay, I want to go back to yesterday, midday. Like you'll look at the account, see which one is closest to what time you're thinking, and then you can restore that by copying a file over pretty easily.
Yeah, well, and it's not like they're dealing with a couple of servers. I mean, they're dealing with hundreds of servers with Atlas, because of how it's grids. How there are hundreds of servers. Each grid is a server. So I would imagine a 5-hour rollback across the entire network is that
was a little bit of work.
Probably a lot. Of work.
They had to take it all down and then copy them. Because you can't do that on the fly. It just doesn't. You wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
One thing I will mention, because I've been, we talked about in the beginning. I'm doing that script for managing Linux instances.
Yeah.
They did release a Linux client for server, but I will tell you, it is incredibly broken. They went through and you don't have the ability to restart a Linux server if you restart, you have to delete the whole save and start fresh. You can never continue a save on a Linux server. It's that broken. And so none of the servers that you're running on right now will be Linux, because there's no way for them to continue and save your progress at the moment.
Boy, that's those Windows servers are very expensive to operate and run compared to Linux.
Yes, and so I don't know what it is.
Servers.
Chat went out of town, so I don't know if we're going to get any public announcements about that, but I assume they have to be working on it. But it's been a week that the Linux server client has been out, but you're unable to actually host on Linux because they don't have the save functionality. It's a corrupted save. Whatever it's doing to save it, the second that you restart, you have to delete it, and so you lose all progress.
Without getting crazy into detail, technical wise, where can people get more information about what is the thing that you're doing? What are you doing? Are you helping with that issue, or what exactly are you working on?
I mean, I've contacted them multiple times. I've worked through all the different bugs and trying to figure out how to fix everything, and that is the last one that I'm stuck on. I have a server running. I have a server up and running it's a 2x2 square, so it's 4 servers running on our server right now just for testing, and it's all working. But the second that I had to restart the server, I had to delete all progress, so it always resets you back.
Yeah.
And so I mean, that's the last major thing that is game breaking that they have left to fix, to make it. Here's another downside. They are running currently on version 4.5 of Unreal. To put that in perspective, the current Unreal is 4.21. The Unreal that they're running Atlas on is 5 years old.
What?
They haven't updated their Unreal in 5 years. Now I know they've been customizing it, and that's probably why.
Yeah, all the customization from Arc.
All the things that they did to customize it, I think, has made it almost unupgradable for them.
Holy shit!
But that is going to be a big problem. Look at all the optimizations that we saw in the past 2 years, past year with Unreal. That all of these servers are saying, like, hey, we've gotten all this online works so much better, and all these things that they're taking advantage of. They're so far behind.
What version is it?
They're 4.5,
and they're currently on 4.20, 4.20.
4.21 is the current.
Wow. So they're 0.16 revisions behind, which is 5 years, you're saying?
It's about 5 years. I think it's just under 5 years.
Well, that's Arc's timeline.
Yeah, that's about probably when they started.
Yeah. Right. Well, how old are we?
Well, that's the thing is they took one of the very early editions of Arc. They didn't take a recent version of Arc and start expanding upon that. They took one of their early prototypes of Arc, and that's what they based this on, which is the prototype that they had 5 years ago. The thing is they can't update. I don't know how they're going to update their engine if they have it that customized.
They're not going
I think they're in a real bind. Well, okay, here is the major problem that I've run into. And without getting incredibly, as you said, without getting incredibly technical, there is to run it on Linux, you have to have a dependency called libcurl.
Okay.
And
Atlas
requires libcurl version 3.
Uh-huh.
Arc requires libcurl version 4. Okay, so if you want to run, we run Atlas and Arc at the same time. If you want to run one, you have to uninstall the other. If you want to run the other, you have to uninstall that one. That is a major problem. They're so out of date that they can't coincide.
That's going to be a problem for the shared server hosts, like the big boys that do server renting.
Yeah, I mean it causes because some of them. A lot of ways you see this is they'll use a common kind of core of the operating system, and so it's using a common set of files. Well, that's going to be a big problem because then they'll say, okay, well, we can only run Atlas on this server, and then we have to only run Arc on this server. It's going to cause extra hassle. I found a custom libcurl that includes both, but it's a custom one. It's not an official one release that goes in your Ubuntu updates. It's one that someone made. But this is, how are they going to fix that? They're going to have to update their Unreal. I just do not see that happening. So I think that they realize how big of a mess they are in with Linux, which would be the primary server host if it works right. I don't know what they're going to do. Short of how are they going to update? It'll be interesting. I don't know what they're doing. I think they're in just let's try to keep the ball rolling. Let's try to keep our heads above water mode right now. But once they get all these flames out from the initial release, that's going to be the next step that they're going to have to tackle. And I think that's going to be a huge one.
Yeah. Well, at least
that's something that you may see it like a year or two down the road that they actually start updating that.
At least the guy that made this libcurl package, you can at least add it as an unsupported repository, so you can at least add it to the OS. And
that's what I did, and that made it work.
You can at least do an update and get an update if there is one.
Yeah. But that's most people, that's outside of their knowledge, right? Or some people get really freaked out about adding a custom repository because of security.
Oh, or doing updates on Linux. Yeah, that's me too.
Yeah, or they just don't want to ever run.
Yeah, every time I log into it, Putty's like, "Yeah, you got 7,000 packages that need to be updated, and they're all security." I'm like, "Yeah, well, we're good to go until somebody compromises it, so don't worry about it."
But that kind of puts in perspective. Like, they're in a mess.
Yeah, they've created a real mess here.
Because I mean, the fact that they've created something that's not modular, that's very difficult to upgrade. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, over the next year, we'll see what they do.
I'll tell you this, Brian. The key is going to be keeping the mess, because most of this is behind the curtains thing. What you're doing is you're doing a behind the scenes thing of hosting your own server. There's probably
I'm seeing more than what your average person is going to see because I'm digging into it.
Exactly. So I would say their goal here is to keep the behind the scenes, and I'm sure, Brian, if you turn the camera around right now, your desk probably isn't the cleanest thing in the world. You've probably got wires all around your monitors. that stuff it's easy to hide, right? But the problem is, if that curtain starts becoming shown to the everyday community and they start, hearing about these issues, and it's not hearing about them, it's when the issues start affecting them. Then they're going to have a serious problem on their hands.
And the whole Linux community is really feeling everybody. I mean, I've been in a number of Discords. I've joined a number of Discords just trying to talk about and figure out this problem. It's happening across the board with everybody. Because I wanted to see if it was just me running into this.
Yeah.
Like, this is a major issue. Everybody's running into it. And there's not an easy solution at the moment, because they're not going to be able to say to everybody, oh, if you want to run this, you have to install this special package. They're not going to be able to say that.
Yeah.
Like, they have to do a patch that works on standard Linux.
Yeah. Install this random GitHub project on your server to run two versions of the same, two different versions of
the same dependency.
Yeah, that's nuts.
That's not the answer.
I well, hopefully, I mean, they probably could package something like that into their Linux version. No.
Well, they'd have to rewrite. I don't know if they really could, because it is looking out to the operating system to provide something. They'd have to rewrite and make it so that it doesn't use that feature.
Yeah, and then package it themselves. Nevertheless, that's we need to stop with the technical stuff. But so if people want more information on what you're doing, you forked their project, and the link is.
I forked Arc. Yeah, Arc Server Manager. And
excuse me. Yes,
you can go. So you can go on to GitHub
or Byte of Tech.
Or Byte of Tech. I put an article in there that I'll kind of maintain. But the Atlas server tools, you can go on there. There's a link to my GitHub. There's a link for easily installing it. And I've been trying to keep it, keep it up to date.
Looking out for the community, Brian. For people to say that Brian doesn't have the best attitude with video games, Brian's looking out for the community. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate your service and doing the show notes. You're doing a lot.
No problem. Well, that's the thing, is things like this, like, it's very difficult to maintain all this stuff. If you get into it and look at what the Atlas Server Tools does, it automates so much. The installation of instances, the restarting and the managing and the updating, installing mods, like everything.
They must have one internally, because they're doing all those updates. I wonder why they don't just make that public.
So they have it now will manage. Okay, here we're going to get technical for 1 second. The new server way that they do servers uses a thing called a JSON file. And what that does is it kind of handles how all the instances, the multiple maps, communicate with each other. You can add in there a list of the mods that you want, and they have built in an auto update feature, which will automatically kind of keep the mods up to date. The problem is, on Linux, it actually crashes the client, and you cannot start it when it's using their auto update feature. It actually crashes the client out.
So would you say that
you have to turn it off?
Would you say that JSON file is kind of in some respects, a database keeping track of all of those individual servers and what they're doing?
Yeah, it has all the server settings. It actually contains where all the islands, because these aren't maps like you would normally think of them. The way that the maps work in Atlas is it just says, okay, an island is placed here, an island is placed here. You start out with a blank map, and you just put locations. They actually have a map editor, and you just put, I want an island here, I want an island here, and you can create your own custom maps. And it's not like a normal map that you would think of. Well, this JSON file actually contains all of that information. You can put in there the information about ghost ships and quests.
So it's a big
everything goes into there.
It's a big config file, but
huge configuration
for everything.
Yes. Your average person, though, will not know how to edit that. And so that is a problem for them of if they just say, oh, go into the JSON file and change all these settings. It's very confusing at the moment. They need to come out with a tool that allows you to easily manage. Right now, you can edit the way that the islands are laid out. You can do some of it in there, but it's not user friendly yet. And I'm hoping that that's something they address, because I don't want to go in there and have to implement that into my tool. Because there's the way that Arc worked, and then there's also these added things with the JSON file. You put certain settings in both files. We don't know which one it's actually referencing or which ones are required. So it's just kind of a weird limbo at the moment. Just because they released it so quickly, and it's not really baked. It's it's half baked.
Yep, absolutely. And we've talked about this extensively, and we'll continue to chat about it over the next couple months and into the next couple of years. This is this is clear to us. This is a very rushed project, and now that the dust has settled on the newness factor of the game, and people like yourself, Brian, are really trying to dig into server code and try to figure out how to host servers and whatnot. And even we had originally a post from the original one of the original private server host, or was it the official? It was the official server host for Atlas, or was it I don't know. It was the official or the private server host partner said they didn't even give us any notification. We had to beg them for files and they Q ping something like that. I don't remember what their name was. Q server something.
Ping Perfect or Ping,
nah, it wasn't Ping Perfect. That was the company that screwed over Conan. But they said, hey, this was a mess, and they weren't communicating, and then like the game was out, and we didn't have the server files, and the yada yada yada. So it's been clear that they just have got too many, moving parts.
They got too many fires they're trying to put out at the moment, I think, is the issue.
And so TLC is going to be a serious endeavor here. They're gonna need and they need a lot of it.
Yep. Now, okay, so you kind of started streaming through an article, but that's their Atlas dev kit. So that's for people that want to go and make custom mods. If you want to do that, and they actually, you see some screenshots there. Actually, at the top, you can see that tool that I was talking about that lets you go and kind of edit the map and make that's a lot of the settings that are going into that. So you see where it says mod IDs on there. That's where you put the list of mods that you want.
Gotcha.
You can put in there just different information, like that one showing an example of a 15 by 15, which is probably their official, size. Maps, so squares. So you can put all that in there, and it creates the files and everything. But that is their official tool so far. But as you can see, there's a limited number of things it's letting you put in there. It is not a complete configuration tool. I think it's just kind of what they use to quickly make these things in the office.
Gotcha.
But they have the official dev kit now, which you can go into Unreal, create things. I mean, that's where you'll see people making major changes to the base game or adding new content to the base game. That'll be from the dev kit itself. People probably can add new islands. I mean, there's probably a lot of things that they can end up doing. So I think for them, if they can really get the tools for the dev kit working well, that's where we're going to see the interest and the cool things coming out, not from, I think, from Wildcard Grapeshot themselves.
Yeah. And it's clear that they're slowing down, Brian, because their next big version update, version 16, isn't ETA'd until late February. Let's assume that just because of track record that late February turns into, I don't know, early, mid-March, somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah. So you're looking at, 30 to probably 45 days before their next major, their next full number release, which is version 16. And that indicates them slowing down their content patches essentially. I can imagine that they're working on all this stuff behind the scenes.
That's the thing and they don't need new content right now. The thing that they need, and they do mention it in here, they say significant server improvements over the coming weeks. We'll be doubling performance increment by increment. Just to give people a little bit of a heads up of performance compared to Arc. Let's say an instance is running where there's nobody logged in, it's just sitting there idling.
A single server.
Yes, an Arc instance will run maybe 10% of one core, like on our server. I mean, this is just going to give you a benchmark. It'll run and sit there at about 10 to 15% idling. It's kind of doing its thing. Mm-hmm. An Atlas instance runs at 100% of one core.
Wow,
idling. So they definitely have a lot of room for improvement. They said this patch is going to be a 25% performance improvement. They're planning on doubling it. So they're going to have to get it because this is very difficult for server hosts. For server hosts, I mean, imagine you're running this as a server host. How much extra CPU you had to dedicate to these machines, but people don't want to pay for it. I can imagine the server hosts just kind of hate this product at the moment.
Yeah, that's probably the case.
So, and especially if you want to run multiple. So, I mean, I have 4 instances running. That's 4 of my cores. Luckily, we have 25, right? Or 24. I'm sorry, 24 cores. But let's say you had an 8-core machine, and you're running
womp womp
4 of those cores just to idle 4 instances. And then if somebody gets on, like you don't have a lot of room of headway there.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Server talk with Brian. So
I mean, this is incredibly technical, but I think it's important for people
it
to
is.
realize
Yeah, I mean,
what is happening.
I don't think this conversation is probably going on anywhere else in terms of, outside of internal communication. I don't think anybody else is having these kinds of conversations. It's interesting. It's interesting to look at.
So
what do you want to cover updates from them wise?
So I mean, let's just kind of look at, they're talking about as you said, the next version that's going to come out is going to be next month pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But they do have this month, they have just a lot of balancing. I mean, there's fixes and balancing.
Yeah.
You're not seeing they did put in a new quest. They said a new Fountain of Youth quest will appear for characters, because we were asking, what do we do when your character hits max age?
Yeah.
For characters age 90 or higher, the Fountain of Youth currently represents as a magical particle effect, appears in a single golden age ruin across Atlas, near the Power Stone container. Every 50 in-game days, it teleports to another golden age ruin on a cycle. If you find the fountain and activate it, your character will be set back to age 20. And if you do this when you're age 90, over 90 years, you'll gain a significant permanent statistics boost. You can do this multiple times to gain further boosts each time when you're at least 90 years old. So it's a way to permanently boost your characters. If you can make it to 90, get set back to 20, make it to 90, and you'll keep getting boosts.
Gotcha.
So that was the major change. Other than that, it's just all I could see was a lot of balancing in the last couple of patches.
I guess that makes sense, right? Just trying to get everything.
They're trying to get it. Yeah, I mean, fixing. There's a lot of fixes, spawning issues. I mean, all the things that you run into, and you're like, oh, this doesn't work right. They did do some extra, features for servers, making it so you get more gold, making it so that you can disable aging of the character, disable claim flags, change the radius of, like the claim flags, things like that. So they did add a few features, but I think that was, other than that quest, I didn't think I saw anything that was new in the last like 3 or 4 patches. But I mean, that's fine. I mean, they got a lot of fixes. I'd rather not have anything added in there that's going to cause them an unstable environment and cause bugs.
I'm really hoping they can pull it out. I think they can. I really think they can, but there's just so much stuff they got to work on before somebody like myself's even contemplating jumping back into playing it for any extended period of time.
Well, that's where, I mean, if a really cool mod comes out, people make custom servers and just some really cool stuff comes out, like that would be enough to say, oh, let's go play that. But I think on the base, I have no interest in playing the official servers. I'm sorry, I just zero interest.
I'm not really one that enjoys modding in games. Like I've just never like vanilla Minecraft or mod vanilla, GTA 5 vanilla or some like mod vanilla. But I feel like a game like Atlas, maybe a Black Wake style mod, because I don't think they're.
Or you could even have more modern boats. They're going to put us. They already have a submarine that's going in the official. I don't know if
still
you
the
saw
same
that.
thing though. I mean, modern boats, but it's the same thing. Build it and drive around and get beaten up by other people.
So once if they can get server performance a lot better, it'll make it. They could probably get it to where it's much more smooth going across the zones. Make it more seamless. Like you could create it to where even flying in a plane. Right now, I can't imagine flying in a plane being that much fun as you go from zone to zone to zone. Right? If you're really going that fast.
Rubber banding back and forth.
Yeah, you're like, oh, and then it crashes, and then you're set back, and you're in the air, outside your plane,
glitching through the plane. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, just all kinds of things could happen. But I think that this one has much more flexibility than Ark as far as where you'll be able to go with this. Or what even can they expand the size of the maps themselves? Because right now you have a certain size that the map is. It'll be interesting to see if people will be able to create like super maps, 4 giant squares if they can get performance good enough.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Just kind of make it to where the world is much bigger. Right now, they're very limited because performance is not very good. So you can't really push the limits that much.
Gotcha. All right. We've got a lot that we haven't got to yet. Let's try to bang out a couple of quick things, couple of just quick updates real quick. Sure. Let's just, since we've been talking about it, let's just transition over to Ark. They've got a couple updates this week. This update that they did on the 16th is a pretty large update, Brian.
You can tell they've been saving it up. Like,
Yeah,
they've been
this
focusing on something else, but been doing fixes in the someone's been doing fixes.
Yeah, they did mesh memory optimization for like everything, like a whole bunch of objects and a whole bunch of full maps.
Do you know what that is?
Yes, the mesh is what the mesh is, like what the thing is.
The asset itself.
Yeah.
So pretty much them going in doing mesh memory optimization is pretty much making probably the texture smaller, because you got to think it stores all these things in your video card's memory. So they're just making it, I'm assuming based on what they said, they're probably making it use up less memory so that you can have less memory taken up on your video card or have more things stored in there for more objects. I think that's what that means. So
they fixed a couple of exploits in here involving chairs, ladders, and a couple of other things. C4 can no longer be placed on platform saddles. For the tech bridges, they fixed an issue with placement where bridge incorrectly identified other structures as enemy structures. Players were disconnecting when they connected to the terminal. Some turret issues, key bindings, server stability, issues with the formatting with stuff in chat with embedded URLs.
One interesting thing I saw in here is on Scorched Earth, they fixed holes that were in the map, and on the island, they fixed holes that were in the map. They finally just got to those. I mean, Island's been out for a while.
The game has been out.
And Scorched Earth has been out for a while.
Yeah.
It's like they just finally they probably had these. Oh, we got holes in the map. People have mentioned them. I think this is them kind of going through and saying, all right, we're pretty much done with Arc. Let's do these last set of fixes and kind of get these ongoing bugs out of there.
Yeah. And if you're our video watcher here, I was going to say video listener. If you're a video watcher, you can see this is a pretty long update in comparison to their update they did on the same day, which is just a single line. And that was just for server operators, fixed items not displaying in Arc data. And that was, both of those were done on the 16th, which was last Wednesday. So that's up to date. We're up to date. We're 289.101. That's where we are right now for Arc.
Yep. Very good. All right. So do you have a preference? One thing could talk about. What do you want to go to next?
I want to talk about 7 Days to Die because they're doing something cool, and I think this will be fun to talk about. This is something we really haven't seen from a lot of other game developers, Brian. There's a post here on their official Steam post that the Fun Pimps are happy to announce. You think, oh boy, what are they announcing? A new game, a new mod, this, that? No, officially licensed merch. That now and it's not through some like weird shipping store. They've got an Amazon page, and they are just selling officially licensed 7 Days to Die merch through Amazon. Now, I'll tell you, it doesn't have free shipping, which is a huge no-no. But here it is.
It has free returns.
I see free returns, but so here it is. This is an officially licensed 7 Days to Die shirt, and this is something for example, if you're a big Arc fan, Brian, and you want to buy, I don't know, an Arc t-shirt on Amazon, here's an Amazon product page, but most of these things are really crappy screen prints that like a Chinese sweatshop are just pumping out and then selling.
It's not actually bringing them any money.
This looks like it's an all right shirt, but I bet you if we scroll down to there's no customer pictures on it. I was saying if we scroll down to customer pictures, there's probably it's probably not the greatest quality shirt. And I think this is something that more games need to do. I don't know what the process is like, but it can't be too complicated. I mean, to get something up on Amazon, but more officially licensed merch on sites like Amazon. Because here's the thing. I don't want to buy merch from you, pay $9 to ship it to me, and then and the shirt's already $22, so I've got $30 invested in a t-shirt. I mean, if you really like the game, you could be like Firebomb and, buy some stupid Friday the 13th.
Buy 7 shirts.
Buy some stupid coffee mug for Friday the 13th coffee mug. But those things are expensive when you buy them on the custom stores for these games. So got Got to get it on. Yeah, now God is saying, where's the infection merch? We did have infection merch, but it was the same thing. It wasn't on Amazon, and the shipping was so damn expensive through, was it Spreadshirt that we were doing it on? It was just like, who the hell wants to spend $31 on a shirt? Firebomb made his own. Yep. And he did that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't foresee us bringing.
We'll send a template to people. People can print their own. They go to their local shirt shop. We'll send you a template.
Yeah, we'll give you. We've got it all. And I've actually got the EPS file from our embroidered shirts because I had to have an embroider shop.
So if you want to custom embroider the infection logo on any shirts, we'll send you that file.
Yeah, you can do that. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool to see that 7 Days to Die has got that. And if you go on Amazon and search 7 Days to Die T-shirt. It's sold by the Fun Pimps, and that's them. So go ahead.
And I wants to know, do we have Infection Podcast key rings?
We do.
I can't say.
I've got mine somewhere.
Got one back there.
He's got one. Yeah. It's sitting on his desk. I know exactly where it is. It was. I gave him one. Yeah, he's got one.
Amnon has one. Yeah. So
does Sarah Flanagan and the guy she was
Sarah
with.
Flanagan. I'm sure she's relished that. Probably saving that. Special place.
Yeah. She contacted us to see if she could be our PR person. That didn't work. Our community manager didn't work out. I'm sorry, Sarah. You just had to get that in there. So yeah, I think that's pretty neat. And then there's an update here as well. Back on track with 7 Days to Die. 17.1 is out.
So this is they're stable. So this is 17.1 stable. Official.
And what's the deal with this? What's going on?
So, all right. So they did add some new things to this. Mainly, I mean, okay, one of these things is they added cigars to the trader wares. So you can now buy a cigar from the trader. I know that's important. You can now buy glue from the trader. AI will do destroy area 60% on all fall after unreachable side path. I don't even know. That's like half English. Do you understand what they're saying?
No.
AI will do destroy area 60% on a fall after unreachable side path.
No, I don't.
I have no clue what that even means. They added old cache to laundry and nightstands. They've adjusted the sleeper bonus. That was the main. Other than that, it was changes, tweaks, fixes, and once again, the known issues is on this one about the size of half of their update notes. So if you take the actual updates, take half of that, that's how long their current bugs is. So I understand that it's stable, but there's still a lot of problems. They're not, unless they get all these fixed, they're not close to release. So we'll definitely have a version 18.
Oh yeah.
I don't see this going straight to, we're going to version 1.0.
Yeah, definitely.
So that is 7 Days to Die, and we'll play it at some point. But as you said last week, we've got to give it some time.
I'll give them credit, and we don't always do this. Their experimental version of the game was pretty error-free. I don't believe we had any server crashes. We had a couple of issues with those unlimited trees that were kind of a problem,
which we took full advantage of.
Well, yeah, of course. But I mean, if that was the bug of the experimental build of the biggest update they'd done in a year and over a year and a half, that's pretty damn good. So they deserve some credit on that. That their experimental version was better. They could have released
that as Alpha 17, and then all this stuff since then could have been going into Alpha 18.
Yeah, their experimental version that we played a couple of at this point probably 2 months ago was better in some regard to than a lot of final versions of games that are out in terms of their stable releases of what they're doing. Like, it's probably more stable and less bug prone than Atlas's current stable version of the game. I was very impressed with it performance wise, and we had a couple of issues with server crashes in regards to day 7s, but there was no just like random server halts that was throwing us all off and whatnot. So
it was mainly when they had the 7th day and just a million zombies started coming. That was the only crashes that we had. We'd restart, but I think they did fix that. So if you play 17.1 now, you won't have those same issues. So it should be fairly stable. It should be definitely playable.
Yep. So check it out, buy some merch, and that's 7 Days to die. Brian, we run past time here. Do you want to announce your game giveaway?
Yes. Well, let's go on to one thing else because I got to pull up the code.
Perfect. All right. Well, I got something quick here. This is from our friends over at Xera Survival. They've released their January newsletter, and there's some information in here about their couple weekends of testing that they did. So they gave out just about 4,000 codes for the alpha, and that was as of December 23rd. On the final weekend of testing that they did, they had over 730 unique players log in. So throughout that weekend, there were 730 different players that logged in. And there were over 4,200 PvP casualties, as in players fighting each other, and 54,000 kills of the humanoids, which are the robots in the game. And then they've got an interesting breakdown, Brian, of the countries here. 89 different countries played the game, and this pie chart is very interesting. Looking at this, the U.S. and Brazil, and it looks like Brazil's chunk of the pie is even almost a little bit bigger than the U.S.'s. Brazil's got a huge player base of this game, and China, as you can see here, has got a decent sized chunk. That's about equivalent to the UK's and France's, and maybe even Germany's players combined. What does this mean anything to you? I know you're kind of the analyst when it comes to some of this stuff. Does this mean anything?
Well, I mean, I was kind of surprised about Brazil being so popular. It's just kind of odd that would be one that stands out. Usually we see it's USA and then China.
Or China and then USA.
China taking 90%. But I think that this is a pretty healthy balance. I'm not sure why Brazil, but I am glad that China isn't taking up a huge section of that. Now, of course, as I'm sure he knows, at some point, once China sees it, they will take a big chunk of it. And Nick is pointing out that it looks just like Pac-Man.
No, I'm not. That's China's chunk as playing.
Normally.
Yeah, there's China here. There's this whole area is China here. They're doing their thing.
So I think that's a pretty good. It'll be interesting once it gets more public. Once China sees it as a competitive thing or a cheat comes out for it, you'll see China's numbers jump up much bigger, I'm sure.
That's a cheat comes out for it. I like that. That's pretty good.
Well, that's reality. When a cheat comes out, then they'll start playing it. So as long as he can try to prevent that and keep it out of that limelight, I think as long as we can keep that balance, I'm fine.
Yep.
So you'll know a cheat came out when China then all of a sudden takes half of the map.
So going on with that, they're planning on doing another test run actually this weekend. So it's the 25th, 26th, and 27th of January, and then again February 8th through the 10th. And obviously those are subject to change as things get delayed in the development cycle. And Josh is in our chat.
Joshua, he's making a comment that he is implementing easy anti-cheat this weekend.
Coolio.
So that will be good. So get ahead of it before the China unleashes.
And then there's a link here on how to get a key, and how you can people can invite you, and all of that is on their website, and the links for that and whatnot are in our show notes, infectionpodcast.com. All right, Brian. What do we
Very
got
good.
here?
So if you want to enter the giveaway, it's ! Giveaway. We'll do a 60-point raffle, which means that you've been watching the show for an hour. You actually can get away with watching it for less than an hour if you follow us, because I think you get 10 cans or something for doing that.
Yep, survival game cans.
Yep. So I'm going to be giving away a copy of The Dwarves, and this is an RPG fantasy tactical RPG, and it's got mostly positive. And I'll put a link to the Steam page as well if you want to check that out. It's normally $40. Right now it's 75% off, but it looks like a fun game to play if you're into that kind of overhead tactical RPG. It's got it looks like it has a lot of cutscenes as well, so you have some story in there.
Did you know that the Dwarves is also an American punk rock band formed in Chicago? When I searched for the Dwarves on Google to find the game, yeah, that's the first result here. The Dwarves.
Nice.
The more you know.
I'm sure they're great. I'm sure they're a great band.
hey, don't hate. All right, so you can enter exclamation point giveaway to do that. And quick note, programming note, Brian. Next week's program. This is tentative. Now people are gonna say, "Oh God, moving the show." Next week's show will most likely be an hour earlier. I've got to work. I've got to work, not in a function. I've got something I've got to do in regards to work right around 9:00 Eastern. For people that don't watch the show live, we do the show from 7 to 9 Eastern most Tuesday nights. So we're going to start a show at 6:00 Eastern next week. We'll run it for 2 hours until 8, and that hopefully will give me time to get everything done and get over to my engagement. So if anything changes, you can, we'll put it out on Twitter, and we'll announce that on Twitter as well. You can follow us. It's at InfectionCast, CAST on Twitter, and we'll update you if anything changes. But tentative next week for the live audience, 6:00 Eastern start time, 3 p.m. Pacific. It'll be like Thursday in Australia time, and just do your local time zone conversion. So 6:00 next week for the live program. And join us live here on Twitch and YouTube Live. It looks like our friends over at Realm had a pretty big week. They're doing something big over there, and they've got a big announcement. We actually had the opportunity to talk, or I should say, you had the opportunity to talk with the community manager over there during PAX West at the Facebook gaming booth, and they were super cool guys. And they are finally coming out of alpha, and they're hitting open beta, and
they were fairly stable. I mean, this is one where they were pretty stable since day one. That was one of our initial comments about this game, is how polished it was and how smooth it ran. Because I mean, they based it off of Paladins, right?
Yep.
Was kind of the original code for this. The assets always look beautiful. The gameplay was always smooth. They have done a lot of tweaking and kind of figuring out what their gameplay style is going to be. And so, they've done that over the past, since PAX. I mean, that was kind of the initial at PAX. They were like, hey, we're making some changes. And they started doing that. And there's been up and downs with it. Some people didn't like some of the changes. I think they've gone through and just have adjusted and kept on tweaking it, trying to find that right balance to make it a unique VR experience. So I think they feel like they probably have gotten that balance down, and so now they're coming into open beta. So
they are. So they've got that as their announcement. They've got a couple of other things here too. I'm trying to read these chronologically. January 16th. So they've got their second battle pass too. This is everybody's pretty much copying Fortnite's implementation of their battle pass I don't know what I think.
It works.
I think they call it battle pass too.
Yes.
So this is the essentially pay for the season and you get a higher tier set of rewards opposed to just the better skins. And it's doing wonders for games like Fortnite, PUBG. Trying to think who else has got a really big
Rocket League does it this way.
Yeah. I feel like, God, there's another game too that I'm just escaping my mind.
H1Z1 does it.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of games that are doing it really successfully. I guess it's probably just Fortnite and PUBG are doing these passes. And they're doing the same thing, and I'll just scroll through.
ROE does it.
Oh, you're right. ROE does do it. Scrolling through here, they show the different things that you can get, the different mounts. They tell you what levels that those unlock, character skins, pirate skins, assassin skins, more pirate skins, marksman, whole bunch of other things that they like. There's a lot of variety in here. Some sprays that they're putting into here that you can see the different levels that you unlock. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into this, emblems and such, and that's their Battle Pass 2, which doesn't say when it starts. Maybe it's now.
I mean, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, it's available now.
Going.
It is, and it's for a limited time. So get in there and you can get that and unlock that. And then we've got one final update from them, which is
something that'll get Joe playing again.
It's a skin pack essentially. So that was what they've got here, and it's called the Rainbow Bundle. It contains 4 items, and it's a limited time bundle. which is limited time indicating the tradability of this stuff and its market value would ideally go up in the future. So they've got a Starburst Sorcerer Mage skin. The mage is the character that you play as. They've got a Sparkling Stallion mount, which is
pretty much a unicorn.
It's a unicorn. A gummy chicken skin with the gummy bear, and then a Chasing Rainbow Skydive effect. You can see their little thumbnail here, what that is. And this fits kind of the cartoonish art style of the game. Even this stuff, Brian, and I know you're the stickler for this, as it's not crazy, but as different as this is with the kind of pastel color palette that they've got in the game, this really doesn't seem like it's going to affect the look of the game really at all. They've used very bright, vibrant
I think it matches in. And that's one thing that, I've talked about this with Fortnite. They really thought ahead and created an art style that they really didn't have limitations with. We look at PUBG, they have limitations. You look at a lot of these other games, when they go for that realistic style, the second that they go to more cartoony like this, it stands out. This is the problems that H1Z1 had. H1Z1 had a certain look. If you remember when we started, H1Z1 was a kind of a gritty survival game where the zombies, were supposed to kind of look scary, and it's supposed to be kind of bleak outside, and your character, you could put yourself in that situation and kind of feel like you were there. Then they turned into where you had moving rainbows on your AR and just all kinds of crazy stuff. They didn't have a natural transition to that. I think with these other games, when you start with the more cartoony, it gives you so much freedom to be able to make something that's like this. And people don't go like, oh, I hate that they did that. Everybody seems to be pretty open to it. I haven't seen anybody complain about the skins that they put in Fortnite.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they'll be just fine. They could almost do anything as long as it has that same kind of artistic cartoon style to it. And I think people would be totally happy.
Yep. So you can go check that out. You can buy it for 3,000 crowns, which is their in-game currency. And I don't know off the top of my head, I don't know my crown to dollar conversion. Let me see if I can find that real quickly here. I think you have to do it inside the game. So 3,000 crowns. That's the price that's the price that they've got set for that.
And if you were to buy so 4,200 would be $35.
So it's like $38-ish or so, $35-ish.
How many did you say it was?
3,000.
3,000. So it'd be probably like 20-something bucks.
Oh, okay.
Because 4,200. 4,200.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
All right.
So, yep. And I think that with that, we'll have to put it on the game of the week here coming up in the future once they get into open beta and see if it feels any different. It's kind of hard to say because we played it when they were kind of going through the transition of how they were doing the crafting and the rewards and things like that. We'll have to play it again and then see what they've changed since then.
Here's some guy streaming right now. This is on the Steam page, and he's got the horse skin and whatnot. So, yeah, you can see. It doesn't really look a whole hell of a lot different than the game itself. So, which is a great skin. If you don't notice it, it's a perfect skin.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of bright colors in the game.
Yep.
It's personally, I think they did a really good job. It's not super popular. Realm Royale compared to probably what it should be. I think this is one of the more polished games like this out there.
It is very polished.
I don't think it gets nearly as much credit as it deserves.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, they are in they are just in the sea of games. There's just too much.
There's too many VR games out there at the moment.
Absolutely, and there's just more and more coming.
Yep.
And what are you going to do? There's not really a way to do it. As good of a game as you can make it, it still has got to, stand out against. Frankly, it's got to stand out against Fortnite and PUBG. Those are the two Those are the two games that pretty much own the mass player base.
Yep.
And
I think all the companies are feeling it too. I mean, every company that
look at Darwin Project.
VR.
What was the last time? I mean, when have you heard anybody ever talking about the Darwin Project?
And that's a beautiful game.
Yeah,
They've
it's
done
a great
great
game.
job. It's a unique concept, but it's fighting against that player base.
I mean, we're not playing
anything. No.
Why not?
But
It's just another VR game. Who cares?
Yep. I think they had a good concept. I just think that they need to. I don't know. I mean, what can they do? The thing
not make
without
not be a VR game.
Going away from VR, like but that's their whole gimmick of having streamers. They have to get streamers playing it. They have to create such a unique experience and then get some major streamers doing it. But the problem is, we talked about a little bit earlier. There's streamers. They're making so much money from streaming these other games. These companies will pay them to play their games. That's a small development team. How they're not going to pay as much as Epic is willing to pay.
Well, and they don't, and they don't even have to pay some people. For example, Ninja gets probably a quarter more viewers, if not half, doubles his viewer count when he plays Fortnite. That's what he's known for. So at this point, him playing another game,
make no sense playing another game.
It would
be a loss.
Exactly. Man, I mean, I know our friend Myth, he will play some other games, but he, for the most part, I feel like every time I see him, he's playing Fortnite. That's his game. So I mean, am I wrong in that? Or is that, I mean, that's kind of all I ever see him playing.
He played that one because he was paid to, but that's really the only variation that he does.
So these guys are being incentivized on viewer count to continue to play it.
Because I mean, you look at Dr. Disrespect. I mean, for him, he'll play certain games because he's like, I get my best return on investment for playing this game.
Yeah.
If he branches off and starts playing another game, he takes a huge hit in viewers, in income, and at that point, it's a business.
There are
100% a business.
198,000 people watching Fortnite being streamed on Twitch right now. That's almost. They've got almost 20,000 more viewers than League of Legends, which is the second most popular.
Yep.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah, and so I think that until I don't know what it is, until those numbers start dying down, you will continue to see Fortnite.
And I've continued to play it. I've played it multiple times between last show and this show. I've continued to play it very, very casually, but I'm having a good time playing it. I played it a lot. I played it a whole bunch of times over the weekend. They just did their snow event. I'm trying to get the 250 kills or whatever I need to get over the. I got to actually probably work on that a little bit more tonight. That's what I'm trying to do. But I'm just casually playing.
Well, let's talk about Fortnite for a little bit.
We are the Fortnite podcast, as we've been accused, right?
Yeah.
Love Fortnite.
Oh yeah, because we talk about it all the time.
Yeah, it's every show.
So one thing that Epic announced this past week is that they're going into kind of a rule of pausing updates before going into major events.
I wonder why.
So, well, I mean, I'm sure we could show some H1Z1 examples of. I mean, you remember that they were going into a major tournament.
Yeah, the second battle tournament that they did, the second kill fest, or whatever the hell they called it. And it was like a new map. They had no time. It was the one that we interviewed Manpons right after it, I think, that one.
Yeah.
He's like, I had like
they
2
didn't
days.
even have they had like a stable. Yeah, their stable came out like 2 days before the tournament. So these professionals had no time to even practice.
And it was the new map. It was the new, I don't even remember the new Z2 map or whatever. So they had no time to familiarize themselves with the map.
Yeah. And Ross, or Big Woody Sauce, he's pointing out, he says Fortnite had a bunch of problems with the cube update in the tournament. And so I think they saw that, probably got a lot of complaints for it, and realized, all right, we need to pause this, make sure it's stable, let them play on it for a while, and then that is what we're going to do. So they have, like, for instance, this change is coinciding with the upcoming tournament at the Australian Open.
There you go.
So they'll do that. Have it be stable, and they're probably working on in the background a number of updates. So probably what you'll see is a little while of just bug fixes and then letting it be stable, and then right after that they'll do big content releases because that they're not going to slow down on actually making content.
Oh no, definitely not. I mean, they'll continue up to date and just not push it live, which your esport game needs to be consistent. You can't have people be having issues in $100,000 tournaments because you
remember when there was a complaint by Myth when he was on that one, and there was kind of a little bit of a debate whether it was him making a mistake versus a glitch in the game.
Oh, him falling down
he
that
built
mountain?
He built something and like the build slid him out. Now some people said, well, that's that's just the way that the game works, whether it was intended or not.
I remember that.
It was kind of up in the air whether or not that was legitimate. They need time to be able to play on that to where they can memorize, because they play these so many hours a day, to where he then would go in knowing here's exactly how this is going to behave when I do this exact mechanic. They can't be changing it a couple days before, because these guys have such memorized movements that you change one little thing and they're doing their click, where they're just doing a spin and building huge towers. You put one little change into that can mess up a tournament just like that in a big way. And these guys are playing for large amounts of money. So I think that's really smart. And this shows you how serious they are about tournaments and having this being an ongoing thing. The money's there.
We sound like a bunch of old men talking about this game. Like, oh, they're doing the build and the mouse move and the tower and the building real quick. I mean, I'm so bad at the game that it's just like, why the hell are you even bothering? I thought that was
I'd have to get a different mouse to play that game. I need something with a lot of buttons on it. And that's
Logitech
my frustration.
G112, I think is what I've got. I'm very
I've got the G500.
Not a sponsor.
Limited number. Yeah, there's just such a limited number of buttons on it.
Yeah.
Where this game just doesn't make sense. Like I'm having to reassign buttons that just aren't, like I'm having to think, okay, which button does, it's just frustrating.
I'm sorry, this is the G600, I think. Is this mouse.
So you got the one above mine. So it looks like they added a couple more buttons in that release. So there was another thing that came out here a week ago talking about a Fortnite bug that allows people to take over accounts. And there's actually big money in that, because the whole V-Bucks thing, there is money in this. And there's a lot of kids who are willing to watch videos and kind of go into little scams because they're promised, or watch videos or whatever it is. Because there's a chance that they can get free V-Bucks.
Our friend Nissan Communications refused to buy me V-Bucks over the weekend. I was very disappointed.
Oh my goodness.
Refused.
Well, maybe this will change his mind.
Yeah.
It's just to keep Nick out of trouble, because he can't resist clicking links for free V-Bucks.
Gotta get my V-Bucks in, God.
So I don't know if you can actually show. They have kind of like an animated video.
Which one are you trying to show?
Like an animated GIF.
TechCrunch. Oh, you want their actual video?
Well, no, they have like an animated GIF that just repeats
on the Epic Games site.
No, on the TechCrunch one.
I'm sorry, that's what
you see that right in the middle.
I've clicked every link but the TechCrunch link here.
There you go. So what happened is they have this to where they've opened it up to where if you can get somebody to click a link. So once this kind of starts at the beginning, I'll show you. But what they do is they show it. Somebody creating a link and then just messaging someone, hey, enter for this free V-Bucks giveaway.
Yep.
And it's a bit.ly link. So they get them to click it. So here's the beginning of it. It actually copies the token, the login token from their browser. They then copy and paste that into this, which then allows them to enter that instead. And then they're able to log into your Epic account. Now, this is a big problem because they have their new Epic store. There's multiple things that they could do with this. They could purchase things on the Unreal Market, Unreal Engine marketplace. They have the new Epic Store marketplace. They have these V-Bucks that they're selling. People are willing to click links, and especially kids. Like they're not realizing that there's a very serious ramification.
Yeah,
it could go to a very legitimate looking site that you don't even realize.
This is common on Steam too. I mean, I get them on Skype all the time. Click this link and it's like my nothackyourwebsite.com ? Equals your Skype username. And it's like, come on, But yeah, these are this is very common. But no, you're talking again.
This is a very big problem with how
kids.
Epic is handling this.
But I mean, this is an issue with kids.
Since it's a one click vulnerability.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can get them to visit your site, you click the link. The fact that they can get your login token, Epic, I'm sure, is working on this right now. They may have. I haven't seen that they've actually. Okay, sure. Epic has since fixed the vulnerability, so you don't have to worry about that now. But it was definitely a problem in how they were handling their logins. So who knows how many people really were affected by this? They talk about millions.
Never a good idea to click on links in either Steam or anything that's got nothing. Never click a random ass link from somebody, specifically with passwords and stuff like that. And Josh was saying that this was bypassing two-factor. Yeah, because it was a login token. It wasn't a password. They're not stealing their password. They're stealing in their login token.
It's acting like you're already authenticated.
Yes.
So it's after you've authenticated, you get this token.
That's dangerous.
And then you're just in. So this is definitely an issue. I'm glad they got it fixed, but I'm sure this was out there a little while before. I'm sure people were taking advantage of this. You always hear about accounts getting compromised. So this was a problem with that. Now they have their 7.20 update. You were talking about the snowman. They actually have a video. I don't know if you want to play that video really quick that shows the sneaky snowman. I actually saw Myth playing with this and sneaking up on someone and killing them today using the snowman.
Well, let's take a look.
This is out.
So it's just like the bush. Like if you people that are familiar, you can disguise yourself
in the winter areas.
It's a snowman.
Yep, it's a snowman. So you can kind of plant yourself somewhere. Wait for somebody. Maybe plant yourself. What I saw Myth do today is he actually planted himself next to somebody's loot. They've been shot, and he was all just laying there. And so he sat next to it, knowing that someone could not resist to come and pick up some of that loot. And then he shot him as soon as they came up. Yeah. You know me. I'm a professional looter.
Oh yeah. Brian would be all over that. Brian's like trying to lick the loot off the ground. I was actually in game when their weekend event started. I didn't know it was happening, but I was playing with our friend Sean, and him and I both logged in, and we were in a game, in the middle of a game. It was like noon, and all of a sudden, like the wind starts blowing, and I press M, and I've never seen they do these. We've shown them in the past. These big. Every server-wide event that happens at the same time. Yeah. So I press M, and the map is slowly. It's not slowly. It's a storm. All of the green is turning white as this winter storm is just wiping through the map, and then the whole map is snowing. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in a video game, and I didn't even know it was happening. We just happened to be playing, and it was just like, click every game, every server at the exact same time had this thing go on. And then since then, all of the maps are totally covered in snow. It's super freaking cool. I like it.
And it's pretty incredible that they're able to do that so seamlessly.
That's what I was telling him. I mean, this is why Fortnite is making. This is why everybody hates Fortnite and Epic. Because
it would be so difficult. I mean, imagine them trying to do that
in any game
in PUBG. I mean, I just can only imagine. It's hard enough for them to put a map out, let alone having it to where it's transitions from one map to the other in real time. It would not happen. Like that's how optimized these guys have this platform.
Yeah,
it is incredible. And so here's a little bit of speculation. What do you think at whatever point it is that Fortnite starts to wind down? Let's say the numbers lower. What are they going to do with this platform? Do you think they're going to release it as like a modding platform? Do you think they're going to do something with it, kind of give it back to the community, something for Unreal?
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think of a game like Minecraft. That stopped being quite so popular, but that was their own doing. If you remember, you got to remember way back, they changed their EULA in which server owners were no longer able to sell in-game items, and that's how server operators made their money. They would sell kits.
I mean, it got by Microsoft, and then
and that's what Microsoft they did.
Has a very different mindset.
But I'm saying, I think if you look at that mistake that Minecraft made, and I'm using Minecraft as the example of the never-ending popular game, which for I mean, I don't know what it was, 5 or 6 years, maybe even more than that. I mean, it was probably 5 years, 5, 6 years. It was the top game on YouTube, everywhere. Everybody's playing it. Everybody was talking about it. Without that misstep by, I don't know who owned it at that point. That was a couple years ago. They'd still probably be at the top. So I don't know what they'll do.
Yeah.
Frankly, I don't know.
I have a feeling that they'll do something crazy. Like they're going to do something that's like, wow, that's cool, so cool that they did that. I mean, I don't. It may be a ways away. I think they're going to try to use this as long as possible, which is smart of them. They're making so much money off of it, and I think that it's improving. We talked about a little bit about this last week, but Unity and Unreal are like the two platforms right now. But if you look at when we started this podcast 4 years ago, it wasn't like, oh, Unreal is the choice.
Unity was the choice.
Unity was kind of the choice then, but there wasn't that big of a difference between, okay, maybe you would go do it on CryEngine, maybe you do it, this engine, that engine. It was kind of a toss-up which one you would happen to choose. Now they brought it in such a dramatic step forward that it's like, okay, you do either Unity or you do Unreal, but you probably should do Unreal because, Unreal has this, and this. Unity just has more cheap assets and things like that. They have pulled away so much from the pack that if they could turn around and then release this and put a lot of these things as standard in the engine, I think it would just be such a huge selling point. But I think they want to get another kind of golden egg. They want to get that next thing.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if they'll be able to repeat this. I mean, how do you repeat Fortnite?
No, you don't. You ride it. You ride the wave. You make
as long as you can.
You make as many smart decisions as you can while you're riding that wave, and you move on to the next thing.
I think they've taken this wave much as far as, farther than I think we've seen from any other company. Minecraft did a really good job. But
this is probably the most successful game since the Minecraft series. I don't know of anything else that compares.
I can't think of anything
else.
And
I think it probably blows Minecraft out of the water because it's
dollar-wise.
Well, dollar-wise, and the fact that it is being played simultaneously on all devices. If with Minecraft, it was first on PC. It was on PC forever. Then it came to like the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. Then the PS4 and Xbox One.
Ross
and then
says RuneScape. It's like RuneScape, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, RuneScape. And now it's available on the Switch, Minecraft, but Fortnite from almost day one is available on every platform, phones included. One of the first actual mobile games.
And that's one thing that they really changed. What other game before Fortnite really did that to where
Minecraft was on the phone?
But it took them a while to get it out.
Yeah, and exactly, it wasn't day one.
Yeah, these guys, from early on, they were like, okay, we're going to release on all three. It's going to be a similar experience between all three, and then because of all the dramatic changes they made to the engine, you started seeing other people doing it, like PUBG
and Ark.
Yep. And so I think that this, people can complain about Fortnite, but our gaming experiences are so much better because of it, even if we don't play Fortnite.
Bingo. And that's been, I think, the point that we've been trying to drive home now for the last 6 months about the game.
Like, yeah, you can get mad at it, but you're a year from now, you're going to have so much better games. I was watching a video that was showing some of the upcoming games that are going to be out here in 2019, maybe probably early 2020. And there's some really cool games. Even Mario, like Nintendo is releasing games on Unreal, probably because of the Switch.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But they're developing Minecraft, which would be Microsoft is releasing some different things under.
Yeah.
Actually, Mojang Studio is releasing things using Unreal. Like the major studios that before would do their own proprietary engines are starting to transition and use Unreal, which I think is just going to make Unreal stronger. So we'll see.
I agree. All right. So we're up on time. Is there anything else that you want to give a quick mention to before we roll into current players and tip of the week? I think we covered
there's an Unturned update if you want to check that out.
Okay.
Tencent, I have some news in there about them possibly buying another company. Actually, I'll list off some of these. Tencent, huge company, owns a big chunk of Epic, owns a lot of different parts of a lot of different studios. They are putting in a bid to get a piece of Nexon.
No.
You say, well, I don't know maybe you don't know what Nexon is.
Lawbreakers, Brian. That's Nexon.
Yes. Okay. Well, but these guys, they actually have a lot of other mainstream games that are owned by this company.
Yeah,
so
saw them at PAX West, Maple Story.
Yeah, Maple Story is one of them. I mean, there's Dungeon and Fighter, Sudden Attack, Heart Rider. I mean, there's a lot of, they have, I think, 80 different live games right now.
Wow.
That are under this brand. So Tencent just keeps on buying into so many of these. I don't even know like what their end game is, other than they want to have a piece of almost every single product that's out there.
Did you ever play Combat Arms back in like the late 2000s ish, before 2010?
I probably did. I don't remember.
Combat Arms. That was my favorite Nexon game. That was nobody seems to remember that game, but that was a game where you had to buy the weapons with real money. You got like crappy weapons and you had to pay cash for the real ones for a limited time, like 48 hours. You get to unlock like an M4. So stupid. But I loved Combat Arms.
So Ross says China #1. That's the end game.
Yeah, my pie chart was accurate. Okay, I was right.
Yeah, it'll be the U.S. a little piece like the Pac-Man mouth.
Yeah,
and then the rest of Pac-Man is China.
China. Yeah, there we go. All right. So
here's one thing. So they did say there was a freeze that was lifted in December, but Tencent. So that they were saying that there was a freeze put on because of course the Chinese, how free they are. They've been doing a big crackdown. They said that Tencent had lost billions in its market value during that freeze.
Ruh-roh.
So, yeah, but I mean, they've got that, they're doing, so the stake is worth between 8 trillion and 10 trillion won, which is 7.1 to 8.9 billion dollars in US. They want to control 98.64% of the company.
What, Nexon? They want to own 98% of Nexon?
98.64%.
So they will own the entire company.
Yeah, he says he plans to sell a controlling 98.64% of in Nexon. So,
wow. Hot dog. Well, there we go. There goes Maple Story 2, folks. Now it'll have 10 protect on it, so you don't get hacked.
Yeah, don't worry about the hackers anymore.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
I think that was the main. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, so just you can check out the unturned notes. They have some new updates for that.
All right. Thank you, Brian. And let's talk about games. Who's playing them? And I'm not going to answer why, but I'll tell you who's playing them. At least how many people. All right. Let's talk about H1Z1, King of the Kill, the Battle Royale version of the game. Currently playing 974. The 24-hour peak, 22,240, with a 70 peak of 3,227. Moving on over to Ark Survival Evolved, currently playing 28,438. The 24-hour peak for this game, 41,625, with a 70 peak of 55,155. Moving on over to PUBG, currently playing 26,904. Your 24-hour peak, 911,487, and the 70 peak 1 million. Again, this is the third or fourth week in a row at 1,027,389. We talked a little bit about Realm Royale. Currently playing this 2,991. The 24-hour peak 4,757, and the 70 peak 56,020. And finally this week, Atlas, currently playing 21,714. The 24-hour peak 28,446, with a 70 peak of 37,986. And that is current players. That's the games that we talk about, and that is who is currently playing them. And again, I have a spreadsheet, and I copy the numbers each week into the spreadsheet, and Ark's numbers are not changing. I copy them into the spreadsheet, and they're pretty much the same that they were the week before. They fluctuate by like a hundred, like a couple hundred either way. And Atlas is down like 21, is down like a couple thousand from last week. So it's a little crazy.
Yeah, people are kind of getting burnout. I mean, we saw when we played Ark, there's a limited amount of time you can play that till either something happens or you're just like, I'm tired of this grind. I think with Atlas, the dedicated servers are just too much of a grind. You can't have a normal life. You can't have a busy job and all these things and play that game at the same time. You have to put so much time into it. You can't have a family. And so I think that I think that they really are going to have to. This is where the private servers and the modding and everything will come in to kind of bring those numbers back up. But they have to have it to where it's stable and people can run them out of their house and not, or have it run easily on a server place. It's in between. It's in transition from that point.
Yeah, and Ross, of course, is pointing out the crazy lapse in numbers, saying that PUBG in North America is dead. As we're recording this show, prime time, 9 o'clock on the East Coast, there's 26,000 people playing, but their 24-hour peak is almost 100,000, and that's happening early in the morning on the East Coast, like 6, 7, 8 a.m., which obviously is not prime time because it's the middle of the night in the West Coast.
Well, I mean, the thing is, if you look at those numbers will correlate when they have their million people, that will correlate to China.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So there you go.
All right. Let's go on to tip of the week, where either I can give a general gaming tip or for a specific game. And we've been talking a lot about Atlas lately, so that's what I'll talk about. This is tip of the week. All right, so everybody should be excited for mod support in Atlas. And if you want to see the possibilities of what you can do, I encourage you to go head over to the Atlas workshop on Steam. So just open up Steam, click on their workshop, and you can see in there that there's just a number of different mods. They currently have 65 mods, but that's pretty impressive because it's only been a short amount of time that they've been available. But these mods will do things like my favorite one is to reduce the weight of items. This is something that I tried to do in server settings. It was not possible with server settings, but with a mod, you can easily do it. They have it to where they'll be able to make more items stack and readjust how the vitamins work. All kinds of things can be done in these mods. So I encourage you to go check those out. But there isn't a current single player mode inside of Atlas. So you may say, how are you going to run a server to test these out? If you want to try it, you can look. If you're running on Windows, maybe you have an extra machine running around. They have a thing called Atlas Server Manager, which is a Windows one. And then, of course, I have my Atlas Server Tools. But these are pretty technical. I don't know that someone's going to, if you don't have a lot of experience or have a mind for that you're going to sit down and easily set up your own server. So mostly you're going to have to just kind of find those communities. We're talking about mods. Find servers where people have the proper set of mods. Join those communities because the dedicated servers are not going to get these. You have to go and find the private servers that are being hosted that have weight reduction and have all these different bonuses on there and get in there and play those. If you want to try hosting your own, you're more than welcome to. But we talked a little bit at the beginning of the show. You need to edit JSON files and do all these different things. They have not made it easy to be able to do this. So probably the easiest way, you'll start seeing these servers come up. Look in the descriptions. They'll say, "Hey, we have this and this installed." Go try them out and see what you think improves your experience. But I think this is going to make it easier. We run into a lot of problems with just even building a boat because of how many trips you have to do. You go hit a rock a couple times and then you have to do a trip back to unload it into a chest. This will kind of remove that limitation that you had before the modding was available. So that is tip of the week.
All right. Thank you very much, Brian. Appreciate it as always. And again, biteoftech.com is you've got your first blog post. I'm sure it was hitting everybody's RSS feeds today, and they were just going nuts since 2017, the first time. So it's hitting their Google Reader, and I
haven't been writing code because I've been doing school and everything. So I was like, I wrote something new. I better post it on
the website, baby. Hey, you're paying $8 a year to ICANN to host it, so you might as well get your use out of it.
I better.
All right.
All right.
Yes, thank you, Brian.
Let's go and do. You ready to do the game giveaway?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we'll close this. And congratulations, Nissan Communication, our friend Amnon.
Congratulations.
You're heading to go visit this coming week.
You know what we can do? You can send me the code. I'll print it out.
You'll carry it over.
I will hand deliver him the game of the week.
He'll probably like that more.
We'll take like a lottery picture where it's like I'm shaking his hand. I got the code on a piece of paper.
Congratulations, we hand delivered you.
Yeah, be like, hey, here's your
podcast.
Here's your code. You know, get a nice little picture here. I think that'd be good. A nice little photo op. Great PR. We need a community manager.
What podcast does that?
Yeah, hand delivers free games.
Any other podcast that hand delivers free giveaways?
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, pretty unique.
Yes, very. Yeah, we're something. Unique's the one word you could use.
Aren't we special?
We are special. Again, quick programming note. Next week, most likely an hour early. Just be prepared. 6:00 Eastern. Check our Twitter @InfectionCast. I'll have an update. Hopefully Monday. I'll know for sure what we're gonna do for that. But 6:00 and but for you audio listeners after than YouTube listeners, it won't affect us anyway. And subscribe to us on YouTube. We're getting a lot more comments recently on YouTube, and people are finding old videos. Like we got a couple of comments this week on videos that are like years old. People are watching the episodes and making comments on them. So head on over to YouTube, and if you make a comment, if I see it, which I like to check a couple times a week, I'll throw it in our news channel and Discord. And if it's a relevant comment, we'll bring it up into the show. We brought up a couple of Ross made a couple of YouTube comments last week or the week before, and we were able to have a good discussion about those. So that's just another way that you can kind of get your opinion heard if you can't tune in here live.
Very good. Well, if you want to find me, you can find me at Boise Computer on Twitter. Of course, check out my blog, biteoftech.com. Make sure you go to our website, as he said, infectionpodcast.com. On there, we have our Discord channel. We also have all of our show notes. So anything that maybe we talked about here, and you're wondering, where the video link is, or maybe an article that we referred to, just go to infectionpodcast.com and click the episode that you're wanting to see. And we have all the different show notes for all 200 and whatever episodes that we've done up to this point.
209.
209 episodes. Also, we have on there all the different audio forms. We have a link to our Twitch channel. So maybe you want to join us live. If you're saying, hey, I'm usually not at my computer, make sure you join our Steam group, because that gives a nice little notification. I do that about 5 or 10 minutes before the show starts. So if you happen to be at your computer at that time, get a little pop-up and you can jump in and join us live. Gives you an opportunity to enter in for the free game giveaways and just kind of give some input while we're doing the live show. So that, I think, is it. All right.
Got a little carried away there with my my size up on the mark. I scrolled twice, and the next thing you know, the highlighter's taking up the whole screen. Thank you very much, Brian. We'll see you. Actually, I won't see you, but you're going to be hosting Game of the Week, Rocket League. You know what? I might grab a game or two. If it's cross-platform, I'll bring my Switch with me, and maybe I can hop in for a game or two on the Switch. By the way, Rocket League on the Switch. Don't tell your wife, because you'll have a Switch.
She'll want one.
Top notch. By the way, Nintendo Switch was the top selling console in North America last year. Beat everything out. Just saying. So yeah, join us for that. And next Tuesday we'll be here for another episode. Alrighty, Brian. Thank you very much as always. Glad your voice is back, and we will talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in live. If you did. If you didn't, you can tune in live. We're here every Tuesday night. You can join us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Infection Podcast, or YouTube Live. We stream on both of those platforms during the week. Or, of course, you can check out our podcast after the fact at infectionpodcast.com. Of course, you can check me out on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. Visit our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Have a great week. See you next time.